Hello and welcome back to the Courageous Leaders podcast. I'm Joanna Howes and I'm here to inspire and equip you with the tools, insights and stories you need to lead with courage, authenticity and impact. Today we're diving into a topic that's both nuanced and essential for any leader aiming to do well in today's fast-paced world, and that is balancing empathy and accountability. Now, this is a tricky one. It's one I've had trouble doing myself. But as leaders, we often feel pulled in two directions. On one hand, we want to be compassionate, understanding and supportive. And on the other hand, we know we need to hold our teams accountable, set high standards and deliver the results that we need. If you've ever felt torn between being too soft or too strict, you're not alone. The thing to realise is that these two qualities, they're not opposite of each other. When you find the sweet spot between empathy and accountability, you create the conditions for a team that is both deeply connected, but then can also be highly productive. So today, I'll walk you through why this balance is so crucial, the strategies you can use to master it, and some common pitfalls to avoid. So let's dive into it. To start, let's talk about why this balance is so important. Empathy is what builds trust. It's how we create psychological safety, a space where people feel valued, heard, and safe to take risks. And without empathy, people, they just shut down, they disengage, they stop being able to show up as their best selves. But on the flip side, accountability is what drives results. It's about clarity, expectations, and follow through. And without accountability, your standards will slip. Performance drops, and suddenly your team isn't delivering what they're capable of. The problem is most of us tend to lead too far in one direction, either too much in empathy or too much in accountability. If you're naturally empathetic, you might avoid hard conversations because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Or if you're super results driven, you might push too hard and forget the human side of leadership. And neither extreme works. Too much empathy without accountability just leads to chaos, people getting complacent, and the team losing its edge. And then too much accountability without empathy creates fear, people feeling pressured, unsupported, and eventually they will burn out and you'll lose them. Balancing these two isn't just a nice to have, it's a must if you want to lead a team that's both high performing and resilient. Now that we understand the why, let's get into the how. How do you, as a leader, balance empathy and accountability in your daily interactions? I'm going to take you through 5 strategies to help you do that. So number 1, you need to set clear expectations. This is where your accountability starts. Your team can't meet expectations if they don't know what they are. Be specific, clear about your goals, roles, and deadlines. I recently had a leader who said, I want my team to act like owners. Now, this is really hard if you've never been a business owner. I had no idea what it was like to run a business until I did it. So you need to get very, very specific in breaking down what are the actions and the behaviours of an owner to help them be able to stand in your shoes to know what that feels like and what you expect them to be able to see. If you just say, please act like an owner, they won't know what to do with that. And don't just communicate these once. Revisit them regularly to make sure everyone is aligned. So the second strategy, give feedback constructively. Giving feedback can be a challenge. Yet it is one of the most important things we do as leaders. And the way you give feedback can make or break the balance between empathy and accountability. To start with specifics, a framework that I love to use is situation, behaviour and impact. So for example, instead of just saying you're not pulling your weight, you could say, in yesterday's meeting, I noticed you didn't share your updates. That impacts the team because it slows down our progress. The important thing here is to frame it from your perspective. So you notice that it was, I've noticed, as this will help the person not react defensively and feel they have an opportunity to then be invited to share their perspectives. From there, focus on solutions. Ask questions then to encourage them to share their thoughts. What can help make sure you don't do this again? This approach shows you care about their growth while still holding them accountable. And it's very important to keep the accountability on the person and not take it on yourself. So be mindful of when you use the word we. So for example, what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? This implies you are involved versus letting the person find the solutions themselves. You just need to help them with your guidance, not leave with the problem on you to change. Strategy 3 is model accountability. It's a tough truth, but if you're not holding yourself accountable, you can't expect your team to do it either. As a leader, you need to be the first to admit mistakes, own up to your actions, and follow through on your commitments. When you model accountability, you set the tone for your entire team. This then gives them permission to be vulnerable back with you and share where they have had a setback, because that connection builds trust and everyone can share where you're at. Strategy 4, recognize effort and results. This one's about balance. Show empathy by acknowledging the effort your team puts in, even when the results aren't perfect. At the same time, celebrate when they do hit targets. This creates a culture where people feel appreciated and motivated to keep striving. And take a moment to reflect, when was the last time you celebrated a milestone as a team? As too often this gets missed. And number 5, use empathy as a tool for accountability. Here's where it all comes together. Empathy doesn't mean letting people off the hook. It means understanding their challenges so you can help them find a way forward. Too often I see leaders assuming they know what the issue is. And most of the time, it's not that. You need to take the time to understand what is going on for the other person. I recently worked with a leader who had a team member who shut down when they were given feedback. Now, the best way to move forward here is to get curious about the shutdown versus giving up on giving them feedback. So start by just finding out, ask them, can you help me understand what happens when you receive feedback as I notice you close down? What could help? We don't know the background of this person. We don't know what feedback means to them or what it was like for them to get feedback as they were growing up. So we need to understand that versus giving up on them. Now, before we wrap up, let me share a few common mistakes to watch out for. Mistaking empathy for leniency. Being empathetic doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. It means approaching them with care and respect. Failing to follow through. If you set expectations but don't follow up, your team won't take them seriously. Accountability requires consistency. And over-prioritizing harmony. It's tempting to avoid conflict to keep the peace, but short-term harmony often leads to long-term dysfunction. So balancing empathy and accountability, it isn't easy, but it's one of the most powerful skills you could develop as a leader. And here's my challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on your own leadership style. Do you lean more towards empathy or accountability? And what's one small change you can make this week to bring those two into better balance? And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below, or you can drop me a message. And if you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for joining me on this journey to creating more courageous leadership. And I'll see you next week. If you've been loving our Courageous Leaders podcast, please can I ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps keep the quality content coming and reach listeners like you that we can then really, really help. We fund this podcast ourselves, so to have your support means that we can keep delivering week on week. Thank you.